Before I get started though, I need to just put this disclaimer out there. I thought there's a lot of rules and regulations when it comes to the engineering world, but it doesn't even come close to the insurance and investment industry. This webinar is here to provide information and guidance through these uncertain times. We cannot give specific funds or investment advice. We can only do that when we commit a know your client and investment profile, which is usually completed on a one-on-one confidential manner. But this is out here to help engineers. And first and foremost, I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy. These are uncertain times. We're going to do our best to add some clarity and how to see some of the opportunities and help you thrive when this passes. And like all things, this will pass. And for now, we need to be part of the solution. Again, welcome everyone. Congrats. I'm excited about sharing our time together today. Today is going to be a great day. I'm Steve McClellan. This is what you're going to learn at this webinar. You're going to learn how to seize those opportunities during and after this pandemic and how to navigate through this financial crisis mentally, emotionally, and financially. This presentation obviously is for professional engineers, and the fact that you are here says a lot about you. You are someone that's already doing pretty good and wants to do better. How many of you feel like that? How many of you already work hard and are trying to get it all done? You're a professional engineering to a super parent, maybe a super grandparent. Just give a thumbs up or a like on the comments there. We often, as engineers, we carry the weight of our family, even the weight of the company that we work for or own on our shoulders. And sometimes it seems like a lot. Does that sound familiar? Does that resonate with anybody out there? All right. Well, what I've understood is generally there's 4 types of people out there. And the first group or the first quadrant is the unengaged. And there's not going to be anybody on here that's unengaged so I'm not even going to spend much time talking about them. The second is the overmotivated, but the underachiever. There may be a small number in this quadrant. Those that learn a lot about everything but do nothing. This is a good wake-up call for you. And then there's the third quadrant, and I'm assuming that most of us would be in this quadrant. This is where I spent most of my time trying to be successful, trying to climb the corporate ladder. This is being successful by sheer force and hard work. Max effort, max time, putting your head down, getting things done. Again, can I see hands up or a like in the comments to see if that is anybody on here? Let me open up these comments so I can see them as I go. That's the way I was, right? And it almost cost me. It almost cost me my marriage and my business. What I've hoped to do is help you get to that fourth quadrant. This is where I want to get to, and I want to help you guys get there to the realm of the super achievers. And you can do this with a lot less stress, a lot less effort than most of what us are doing right now. There are tools, resources, systems used to become less overwhelmed, less stressed, but more successful. And that's the goal here today, to help you change your fortune, your future. Does anybody here know the difference between those that are successful and those that are not? It used to be knowledge, but really no longer is. It's action, all right? And the main difference between the super achievers and the everyday achievers, yes, effort, that's right, Marcel, effort, it's actually doing things. And the big difference between the super achievers and the achievers is doubling down on your strengths with focused action, working with experts to help you along this journey. And when this presentation is all said and done, you'll have two paths to take. You can try to navigate through this pandemic alone on your own, which engineers we tend to like to do, or you can take path number 2. And we're going to show you path number 2 as we go. There's going to be a lot of information coming your way. It's going to sometimes it's going to feel like drinking water from a fire hose, and it takes only one idea to make a big difference. So please close the door, limit the distractions. You need to be here. You need to be present. I think you'd agree with me. It only takes one idea to really change the path that we're going to. And if you're not here, you'll miss that path. And geez, I wish I knew this when I was at engineering school. But we're not only going to show you how to do what to do, but how to do it. And the best way to learn something is to teach it. So please turn off the phone. Let's play full out. There's going to be lots of ideas. And if you're not mentally here, you will mess it. There is that Chinese proverb. What you hear, you forget. What you see, you will remember. And what you do is what you'll understand. So treat this like you're going to teach your peers, your family, this either tonight or tomorrow. And for things to really sink in, we have to open up our mind. We can't learn with a closed mind. And we often need to be reminded more often than we need to be instructed. There's 3 questions when you're learning something new or you really want something to sink in. And that first question is, how can I use this? Followed by the second question, why must I use this? And finalize it with, when will I use this? This is taken right from Jim Quick from Quick Brain. Big fan. So today we're going to cover a lot. And there's going to be those that learn lots and do nothing with it, and then those that are going to take it to that next level. We'll save the questions for the end, so write them down or post them right here, and we'll cover them, and we'll try to cover as much as we can. We're going to go over the economic outlook. I'll spend about 5-10 minutes over that. Then we're going to rely on the experts of Ikede to help with cutting costs, give some great ideas on how to cut costs and go on the offense. Staying grounded during these uncertain times. Big fan of Alain Cormier. He's going to talk about how to stay focused and achieve. Now, I know a lot of engineers are very excited to hear from Keith Dicker on the and Conor on the market outlook. Guarantee you this is going to be awesome. And then I'm going to wrap it all up with a quick summary and a template of 5 steps that you can take. And then we'll hand it over for a question period. Sound good? All right. If nothing else, we're going to show you how to save and make money, and hopefully lots of it, and definitely reduce some taxes along the way. Now, as I mentioned, congratulations on being here. This is bigger than you may realize. We're going to show you over the next 45 minutes to hour how to navigate through this financial crisis, not only financially, but mentally and emotionally. I'm Steve McClellan, the financial engineer, owner of Design Your Future, and a proud member of Dave Roberts Financial here in Fall River. You may be asking, why are we doing this? Well, I'll just spend a quick couple of minutes to show you how today came to be. Now, I'm originally from Antigonish, went to St. X, where we worked hard and played hard in the engineering firm. And this is me with hair, getting my diploma from X, and eventually graduating from Dow, Tons, Dow Tech, whatever you want to call it, with environmental engineering. And it was during this 5th year of engineering, I remember walking home one late night. I lived with 5 other swimmers. Well, I wasn't a swimmer. I played soccer a little bit. I was the engineer, lived with 5 swimmers in a place called The Dump. But I was coming home one night, and there was an infomercial on, and it was Tony Robbins. And when I was passing through, he said something that things happen for you. They don't happen to you, they happen for you. And that caught my attention. And when I sat down, I listened a little bit longer. He also said, what if you focused on the things that made you successful, or if things would go right instead of focusing on all the things that could go wrong? And that's the type of guy I was. I was always focusing on the things that could go wrong. And that was a big wake-up call. So the next morning, I woke up and I applied his advice, but not necessarily how I think Tony Robbins meant it to be. I kind of went with whatever. I played everything by ear. Whatever happens, happens, man. I had a lack of focus, no real goals, and no ambition. When I did graduate, I was lucky enough to have a couple of job offers. One was with the oil and gas industry. Never thought I would go into the oil and gas industry. But after talking with a friend of mine, Mark McDougall, who is an engineer as well, he said, Steve, if the oil and gas industry is as bad as you think it is, you have two options. You can either quit or you can make it better. And I said, hey, man, yeah, that's great advice. Whatever, let's try it out. And that took me really all over the Western United States, Western Canada. I spent some time in Russia, really got to travel a lot. Tried to play a little ball hockey wherever I went. But I kind of floated. I had no real destination, no real goals. Luckily, I had some great advice from one of my, that's John Sherlin, there with the glasses with me. I thought he was old at the time. Look, he's got bald hair, wearing glasses. He looks exactly like I look right now. But he gave me some great advice, and he said, Steve, you can do, if I can give you any financial advice, do whatever Warren Buffett does. And at the time I said, who's Warren Buffett? I thought he meant Jimmy Buffett, the guitar player, but it is great advice. Warren Buffett, the most successful investor of all time, but he also offers a lot of practical advice. And whenever I asked my parents about money, they more or less said, Steve, it's rude to talk about money. But luckily, when I was in grade 10, my mom gave me the wealthy barber, where they say, pay yourself first and invest what you got left over, at least 10%. Same advice Warren Buffett gives, great advice. And I took that to heart. I also learned that things happen for you and they happen because of you. Things started getting a little more serious. All right. And I think a lot of you guys on this call, girls as well, would agree. I was working in the States, went up to visit that same friend, Mark McDougall, met this beautiful girl from Pine Tree, Pictou County, beautiful smile. I was Twitter paid it right away. Her, not so much. It took me 2 years after that first encounter to go on our first date. And our second date was 3 years after that first date. But we eventually got settled down, and she made me take things more serious, my career, life in general. And then I want to tell you a quick story about 2008. She moved in with me. The stock market was up and down. I took most of my money out of the stock market in January, watched it, saw some great value, put everything back in August. And those that know your history, September is when the big crash happened. I thought there was a lot of value, but the crash happened. 2009, lost my job. And if it wasn't for this woman right here and a friend of mine where I did a lot of landscaping for, I wouldn't have got by. All right. I made a promise to myself, never again. So when I eventually did find a job 9 months down the road, I realized I needed to make changes. I sought professional help and made the change. And by taking my career more seriously, it actually got me a job offer here in Nova Scotia. We eventually got married, moved to Nova Scotia, my beloved province. And then about 8 months after we moved back, my career came to a screaming halt with the ban on onshore oil and gas exploration. And this time things were different. We had more food, more mouths to feed. Taxes were higher, but we also had a plan. And instead of going and finding another job, maybe it was ego, but I felt that I was very good with money. And I went into the career in the financial industry, worked with the firm, realized that there's a lot of garbage out there. I am a typical engineer. Now, when I say a typical engineer, how would you guys describe an engineer? Just write a comment down there. Is there any words you would use to describe an engineer? Practical, someone who likes solving problems. Good for all. Yeah. Analytical, right. It's nice answering this question to a bunch of engineers. Yes, very analytical. And I'm generally very skeptical of everything I read, especially when it comes to investment world. And the original firm I sat down with hated that, because I'll be honest, what I found is 90% of advisors are product driven. And it's not necessarily their fault. If they're at the bank or if they're at a firm, they're being generally told what to do. And at the firms, which are a little bit better than the banks, if they don't produce, they can lose their jobs. So they're generally product driven. 90% of them won't be, the 10% aren't. All right. So fortunately, having an engineering background helped me shut out a lot of this nonsense. And this is the information I'm going to share with you. Being a proud member of Dave Roberts and other affiliations, I really thought, what if we could make the Maritimes better? When I originally started, I went out there trying to help everyone and everyone. And I'm sure you know what happens when you try to help everyone. You generally help no one. So I shifted my focus on professionals, engineers, and business owners, those that are making the Maritimes even better, because I want my kids to have the ability to stay here and add to its prosperity. Imagine the impact we all could have if we had the ability to help others. All right, so let's get started. Economic outlook. There's going to be more of a dance to the next couple of months. We're going to have to move and shuffle. History doesn't often repeat itself, history does not repeat itself, but it often rhymes. This is not our first pandemic, nor will it be our last, I'm sure. And I'm not here to discuss if we're overreacting. See, the problem is, if nothing happens, which it seems to be going on in Canada right now, we get accused that we overreacted. But if we didn't react and there was massive chaos, which would be much more costly to the economy, we would blame our governments for not reacting. This is a worldwide pandemic. It is traveling. Canada, and I have to give everybody on the call here, Nova Scotians, a pat on the back. We seem to be doing the right thing. Our neighbors to the south, we'll see how that goes, how that plays out. But, you know, stay safe, everyone. Stay safe, right? And generally, there's going to be three endpoints when it comes to this virus. There's going to be an unnatural course or a natural course. Hopefully there will be effective treatments, or there will come a vaccine. And there's going to be several cycles of tightening and easing before we have a resolution. This comes right from Dr. Gabriel Leung, the Dean of Medicine from Hong Kong University. As you can see, there's we're trying to mitigate what is happening out there. From what I see as Canadians, we're doing a good job. And one of the things that I found very surprising, a lot of these slides are taken right from Matt Sims of Simplicity Designs. If you're business owners, I highly recommend going over to Simplicity Designs. They mentioned that if 60% of us wore masks that were 60% effective, that would be enough to tame this pandemic. It's not necessary that the masks are effective, but if 60% of us were wearing them, the transmission would blow. But what is the impact of this great, sorry, I realize that now it is kind of hard to read some of the text. I'll make sure I update these later on. But what's the impact of the great lockdown? Well, for countries that are advanced, such as Canada, there's already a 6% decline in GDP and a 1% decline in emerging economies. This is often referred to as a hockey stick. So generally, the way the stock market and the economy reacts, there's the blade, there's a short dip, and then a long, slow return back to normal. And I don't think there ever will be back to normal. But with the pandemic, we got to get ready to manage the hockey stick, manage our emotions, get ready for some volatility, as well as the relaxing of rules and then the tightening of rules. Generally, this clock right here represents the emotional clock, where 12 o'clock represents the peak of the market when most are buying. 6 represents the bottom when most people are not buying. If I was to ask you, what emotion do you think is at the top of this clock at 10 to 2 when most people are buying stocks or getting involved in different markets? If you just write down a type of message, let me know. Greed. Yeah. FMO. That's right. It is. It's generally greed. And now, what emotion do you think is at the bottom of the clock when very few people are buying around 6 o'clock? Panic. That's right. Fear. Exactly. Listen, we all know we should be buying low and selling high, but we're emotional creatures. No one saw COVID-19 coming, but a lot of analysts did see or forecast a correction in the market. When is generally the best time to buy Christmas wrapping paper or Christmas cards? It's generally on Boxing Day or right after Christmas, January. That's right, John. So when nobody else is buying. So I'm going to ask you guys right now on this emotional clock, where do you feel you guys are at? Where do you feel we're at? Are we at 12, 1, 2 o'clock? Are we at 6 o'clock? Yeah, I see a lot of 3s, and I generally tend to agree. We seem to be at the 2 or 3 o'clock right around now. The average bear market lasts anywhere from 18 months is the average bear market, 12 to 18 months, and we're looking really at month 2 right now. So we're going to help you guys buy down here, take advantage. So when we do go back to the new normal, you're not only surviving, but you're thriving. All right. And there's 3 distinct phrases of this dance. There's the survive the worst of the pandemic. All right. Kind of where we're at right now, where we have to cut, control, and continuously improve. We have the low touch economy. This is going to be the period I've been talking about, the lessening and the tightening. And then we have the next normal. I don't think things will go back to normal. Does anybody on this call think things will go back to normal? This is where we're going to have to navigate the changed behaviors of your customers, clients, coworkers. All right. There will be movers, and there will be fast followers, and then there will be the chasers. All right. This will occur anywhere from the next 16 to 36 months. And one of the opportunities we all have on here, a lot of us are from small towns, local Nova Scotia. We can stop thinking small. We all have the talent here. I've met several of you guys and girls on this call. Very proud of the engineers here in Nova Scotia. We have the talent. We can really go global. All right. And the next couple of years, the next couple of months, it will all be about building community and helping one another. And being Canadian, one of the quotes I like, it's now time to go from defense to defense. Wayne Gretzky, he says, I skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it has been. And I can't think of a better segue for Emo. Emo, big fan. We've met a couple of times. He is one of those guys that just goes above and beyond to help others. And when you help others, generally you see the rewards. He's very successful. He owns his own company, EG Tech. He's big into real estate investing as well. And he's just going to spend the next 5-10 minutes helping us to make the shift to save money and then to get on the offensive as well. Emo, how are you doing?
I am well. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just great.
Excellent. Yes, I think the 2 slides ago you talked about, I think one of the first things there was, number one was surviving the worst of the pandemic. And you talked about cut, control, and constantly improve. So I would say that most of what I'm going to talk about falls into that category of surviving at the moment, where you cut, you control, and then you constantly improve. So that's mainly what I'm going to talk about today.
Awesome. So what are the top three things right now that need to be cut or to be reduced?
Again, I guess it. If you want to talk about the top three expenses, most of the top three expenses most of us have are, a house, car, and food. I believe those account for up to about 62% of our expenses. Now, of course, I don't expect people to make rash decisions like saying, okay, well, I'm going to make a change and I'm going to sell my house today. But in spite of that, there are other areas where one could look in and try to figure out, are there places where you're spending and you could reduce costs? And one of the best ways to do that is to create some kind of a budget or something to help you get insights into your cash flow, which is how much money is coming out and how much money is going out every month or every week, because you already know how much money is coming in. And it could be even, now that we have a little bit more time at home, looking back to say, are there subscriptions I have that I don't need? Are there things I'm paying too much for? I always give the example of overcapacity. You could get the fastest internet, for example, or the highest cable package you have. But if you only watch 1 or 2 channels, or if all you're doing on the internet is just, connecting on Zoom and watching, a couple of Netflix movies, you don't necessarily need the highest tier of a plan. You could use that same logic for things like your cell phone. Are you using, all the features and packages you got? Do you need all that data? Could you pare that down a little bit? So I think it's just taking the time and again creating a budget so you could track where your money is going, so you could find out which things are excess capacity that you're not using, and which things are impulse buys or impulse purchases, so you could cut back on that. I think it's just taking those little steps to find those things and to get some clarity as to where your money is going, so you can effectively go out and make changes where needed. I think if you don't know where your money is going, it's hard to control it. You can't manage. There's the saying, you can't control what you can't see, or something like that is how that saying goes.
That's right. And engineers are generally pretty good at controlling where their money's at. I can almost guarantee, would be safe to say, if you have a budget, who on this has an Excel spreadsheet that keeps track of their budget? Give a thumbs up. How are, I've seen budgets. I've tried to keep budgets. Generally, they don't work. Can you give, and I'm really impressed, you've written several books. You've given thousands of books away to students. What are 3 tips to make it easy for people to save? Because it's not always easy to save. We're not always rational beings. What are 3 tips you can use to help people save money?
Well, you know what? I think at the end of the day, we are creatures of habit. We do the same things over and over again. We drive to work the same way, although, so sometimes it gets difficult to, want to write down everything you spend money on and all of that. But I think that if we use Pareto's law of it's 80% of what this the big things that actually do the most damage. I think that if you take care of, if you buy, if this time comes, guys, and you buy, the right amount of money in house, the right amount in car, and car could mean buying a car according to your budget, not according to, what, has the shiniest bells and whistles. And then you watch how you're eating out and all of that. If you take care of those, it's not to go into Tim Hortons every now and then or whatever that does you in. I think it's those big 80%ers that if you do them wrong, if you're not You don't have some kind of a savings plan. You don't have a concept of money and money management. You bought too much house. Those things, I think those are the big things that do you in. I know sometimes people think when we talk about savings that it should be, don't go to Tim Hortons or don't go to Starbucks. Those I think are small compared to, the big picture. I think it's the things that knock out a couple of $1,000s of your income every year. Those are the things you should watch out for.
I agree. There's a lot of money that falls through the cracks. I have seen people spend car payments at Tim Hortons and McDonald's as well.
Right.
We've talked about kind of being on the defense, but as Wayne Gretzky says, it's also time to be on the offense. What opportunities do you see during this pandemic? What are some of the silver linings? Excellent.
I'll talk about a couple of them, and then I'll even give some examples from my own experience. I think that now they're all at home. Well, it means, of course, if you're trying to get a hold of somebody, they're at home. So trying to track people down is a little easier. But I think it's using the current skills you have to figure out if you could monetize them to a point. Sometimes it could mean learning new skills. And I'm going to give 2 examples of that. Now, because I'm a systems engineer, not an engineer like you guys are, but into IT and computers and all, and search engine optimization. I learned SEO, which is search engine optimization, which in short just means how can you make people find your website a little bit better. I learned that mainly for myself, and then realized I enjoyed the process of analyzing websites to see how they are structured from a search engine point of view. So over this, the last 6 weeks, I started talking to a bunch of clients of mine and offering to do a web analysis for them. So I do web analysis for them. If they don't have to make any changes, they don't pay anything. If they have to make changes and I show them the things they have to do, then I get revenue for that. So that's something that I just started doing actually during this COVID-19 period, because before I only did it for myself. And then another thing I took a step further was I found there were people who wanted to learn how to analyze websites. So yesterday, for example, I was talking to a client in Edmonton who we spent an hour and a half doing online coaching just to show him how he could analyze and do an audit on websites, right? So I have him as a client now we meet once a week for the next couple of weeks. And again, that's another revenue thing which didn't exist for me until this scenario happened. So that's one. Another thing which I started doing was, and I started this before the pandemic, was I started creating online courses. And the big thing was that I found in person, I could only do so many workshops or seminars at the time, or I could only see so many people in a year. Whereas if I had an online course that was there 24/7 and all you needed to access it was just the internet, I could have students all around the world. So I started my first online course about 5 or 6 months ago, and now I have about over 200 paying students, and I've only spoken to one of them. So again, falls in line with being able to use technology and trying to figure out a way where you can go on the offensive to create income, that is passive. And actually, I get paid in US dollars, which at this time is a little bit stronger. So to wrap it up, I think it's just taking the skills you have and trying to figure out, the problems you're solving for yourself. Can you help others? Can you solve problems, other people's problems that have similar problems that you're solving? And can you create a new market for that? Also, are there things you enjoy doing, and can you convert them from hobbies into a business? And are there new skills that you could learn or you could improve so you could take it to a point where you could monetize it? So for me, again, I was doing web auditing just for myself, but I put in some time so I could actually go out and do it for other companies. And now I even do it as one of the things that I coach. So that's the offense for me, where those things now are bringing in revenue. And there were things that I never did before COVID hit.
Hey, that's awesome. So really kind of doubling down on your strengths, finding out what your strengths are and doubling down on those. You have a chance to really seize the opportunities on here.
Yes.
The other thing, we were chatting the other day, and listen, Nova Scotia's been rocked. The tragedy that happened in April, I've got to be honest, that floored me. That it stopped me in my tracks. I stopped. I had a hard time getting back up. Was watching the news. What are some things you do to stay so proactive and to be seizing these opportunities?
Well, I think sometimes you have to, I mean, you don't want to put your head in the sand. So yeah, I do watch, maybe 20 or 30 minutes of the news just to see what's going on. But I think the big thing is having some focus on what you're trying to achieve or what you're trying to build or what you're trying to learn. So it's taking time to do some inventory of what you like and where you want to go. So for me, I mean, I have 2 online courses now. I'm working on building the 3rd one. So that takes some time. I have clients who in Canada and the States who I'm doing some work for. And I have students students that I coach that I have to get ready for. So those things are what I focus on, and they're things that I can control. I can't control when, COVID goes back to normal or when we get back to, the new normal, but I can control how much time I spend each day trying to learn something new or trying to build something. So it's more taking the time and spending it on the things that I can control, looking around to understand the things I can't control to a point. But again, focusing mainly on what I can control and doing those things every day. So I have a list of things I want to do each day, and then I just do them. And if I get them done, I have check boxes on them, and that's a pat to my back for job well done. Because I know if I do those little tasks every day, in time it amounts to a whole lot of something.
And it helps with your confidence too. Thank you so much. Much appreciated, and looking forward to getting together when this is all said and done.
Thank you very much.
All right, this brings me to our next guest speaker, Alain Cormier. Alain, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So, listen, I've been pretty successful wherever I went with not a lot of effort. It felt like in Alberta, the States, even in Russia. But I felt I was struggling in my beloved home province here in Nova Scotia. My business just wasn't where it wanted to be. And then I met Alain, and we met on LinkedIn. So I'm showing you that the connections on LinkedIn can be very powerful. I always practice, or said, things actually happen for you, but he made me actually really realize it, and just the power of what is in between our ears. So there was something happened to me in my youth. I didn't think it was a really big deal, didn't really pay too much of attention, but I did have some resentment growing up. And as I came back, that resentment seemed to build. Alain actually dove deep, got into my psyche, and showed me eventually that actually happened for me. And it was actually the catalyst of the life I lived, why I have Stephanie as a wife, 3 kids. And it really shifted that thing that I had resentment for to being grateful. And my business just went to that next level. And I really want to thank you, Alain, again, and publicly thank you for that. And he's going to talk about how to be grounded. And I'm just going to let you take it away.
Beautiful. Thanks for the intro, Steve, and thanks for having me on today. So yeah, what I want to talk about is how to stay grounded. I want to talk about how to find empowerment and inspiration for growth in times like these. And the first point that I want to make is to the importance of creating your own narrative in a time that's so unprecedented, and to not buy into the fear. And so when I say not buy into the fear, I don't mean ignore what's going on. It's very important. I encourage you to take the necessary precautions, and respond accordingly to what's going on in your environment. But I make this point because there's no shortage of fear out there in the news and the media, all sorts of media, and the people in your environment and whatnot. And if you're not conscious and careful, over time, you can unconsciously buy into this fear. And what happens is if you make that fear your own fear, you're taking the fear that's out there and making it your own, turning it into fear in here. And the way that the role that fear has to play in our body, it's as a role for our survival. And so our fear centers are meant to be turned on when there's a real threat in our environment for our survival. And then when the threat goes away, it's meant to be flushed away, turned off, and reset. So we're not meant to live in, even if it's a low level fear, if you're experiencing a fear-based paradigm around this pandemic, your body is responding to that fear, to those fearful thoughts and the fear in your environment and whatnot. And we're not meant to live in fear all the time. Like I say, fear has a role that's rooted in our survival. And so when our survival centers are actually, or our fear centers are turned on, even in the slightest bit, there's some stress hormones being pumped into our body, and it changes the way our body works. It changes the way our mind works. And it actually, like fear, if you're living in fear and you're really buying into the narrative of fear, you're not creating your own narrative. You're suppressing your immune system, you're decreasing your nutrient absorption, it's affecting your digestion. It actually swaps your higher cognition, the higher cognitive abilities of your brain for more like catastrophic and worst case scenario kind of thinking. So you lose the ability to think creatively, logically, rationally, and to actually plan for the future. So this kind of, if you really buy into the fear that's out there to a point where it makes you fearful inside, you're kind of locking yourself into a survival mode. And if you're in survival mode, you're not thriving, you're not making the best of these times. So a solution that I have for this is to create your own narrative, like I mentioned. We still have to, like I said, be careful in times like these. We don't really know the severity of the virus, and there's a lot of reasons to really have to be cautious, but create a story around this instead of just buying the story that's all around you and taking on that fear. Create a story that's focused on thriving and on new possibilities and opportunities. We talked about the silver lining, so direct all of your energy towards the silver linings, like the hidden opportunities that could come out of this. There's some aspects of your life that might be affected, might have taken a hit, like your work or your finances or whatnot. But the change in lifestyle gives you an opportunity, gives you more space to start thriving in other areas of your life, like your personal development, like your health. You can make some positive changes in your health. You can start working on some passion projects, some things that really make you come alive, and start to explore different aspects of yourself to make the best of these times. Because I mean, realistically, if you're working 40 hours a week plus, there's probably some times in the old paradigm where you feel overworked, you feel overwhelmed a little bit, and you feel kind of tired, and you wish you could just have a vacation. Well, this is kind of like your vacation. You can really treat it that way. And so this brings me to my next point. To kind of take this a step further is to, I would encourage you to become your future self. Take advantage of these unprecedented times and this change in lifestyle to become your future self. So what I mean by this is to get really clear on who you want to be on the other side of this. What kind of person do you want to be? How do you want to remember these times? Do you want to remember these times as times where you just retracted and didn't really thrive and you just survived? Or do you want to remember these times as times where you sought out, or created opportunity for yourself, you had a positive mindset, and you made the best out of it? So how to become your future self? Well, first of all, you want to get really clear on that vision, that future vision. How does this person, let's say in 6 months from now, how does this person look, think, feel, speak, act? What are some new habits that you need to implement to become that future self? How do you treat yourself? How do you treat others? Get really, really clear on that vision. And then what you do is you use this vision as your blueprint for your growth and your development in these times. So you start to live as that future self right now. It's kind of like reverse engineering the person that you want to be on the other side of this. And so every day you commit to feeling new feelings, thinking new thoughts, taking care of yourself, speaking nice words, taking the actions, if taking care of yourself in new ways, and really solidifying that in your reality. And over time, what happens when you give your brain a vision of the future, then it can start to work towards that, building that vision. And so you're going to be creating new connections in your brain to support that blueprint for your future self that you've created. And over time, as you commit to this, as you really dedicate yourself to becoming a better, smarter, stronger, wiser version of yourself in the future, well, the connections in your brain that are associated with that life, that vision, actually strengthen and become more stronger and easier to access. And there will come a time when these new neural connections, these new parts of your brain, become habitual. And when you turn, when you can get to the point where your future self vision is actually rooted in your habits, in your body, in the present moment, then all of a sudden you've become a whole new person. And that's a really, really powerful way to make the best of these times, and you come out on the other side as a better and stronger and more evolved you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you talk about focus, creating the story. It's funny, I heard you mention treat this like vacation. I do see a lot of people that are working here at home with kids present, and I think they'd agree with me. This is almost anything but a vacation. It's parenting is a lot of hard work when you're trying to run a business or work as well. To become your future self, what are some tips that you can give to, listen, one of the things I'm really hoping that the change will be, instead of being busy, that we focus on being productive. So what are some tips you can help people get more focused so that they're actually productive versus busy?
Well, the getting out of fear is like where I would start. And so creating that new narrative, one that is it's like seeking out opportunities and really working towards that future vision. Slowing down is a really important thing in these times, because the world is less busy. And so taking time for yourself, taking time to take care of your health, mentally, physically, meditation, or anything that is related to meditation, journaling, self-reflection, can be really helpful in making that a habit. If meditation is something that you've tried and hasn't worked for you, or you've never tried it and you're not sure what to do, meditation can look many different ways. It can be like going for a walk outside for half an hour and just giving yourself some space to have a clear mind. It can be just kind of sitting there with your thoughts and focusing on your breath. It can look many different ways. So really slowing down and taking time to do some work on yourself, and make sure that you shift your mindset into one that's positive and productive, as opposed to being in fear.
Hey, that's awesome. Slow down so you can go faster, right?
Yeah, exactly. If we try to go too fast and do too much, we end up often just like spinning in circles and not really accomplishing anything at the end.
Yeah, I'm working at home with 3 young kids under 8, and one of the things I've noticed is if I want to be productive, I do have to wake up early. My goal is to wake up 5 o'clock, do an exercise routine, do a little bit of reading. But it's that meditation, that 10 minutes that's really take it to that next level. My days aren't perfect, but I can tell a big difference when I take that 10 minutes and really think about or unthink. It makes a big difference in the day compared to
Yeah, and so what meditation does with the brain is when we're in like a productive mode and focused on the external world and being productive and working and efforting and all of that, our brain is in a beta brainwave range. So beta is like the conscious thinking, analytical mind, and all of that. And if we don't have a practice to get out of that beta range, then we're kind of stuck in there all the time, repeating the similar kind of thinking patterns. But when you take time to slow down, like you said, to really stop the thinking and kind of halt it in its tracks, you end up kind of shifting into a lower frequency of brain waves, where it's rooted more like relaxation and connection with yourself and slowing down. So it's really important to have a practice that gets you in that flow to get your day going.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir. Even if you got a tenth of the value from Alain that I did, this will treat you very well. And again, when this is all said and done, looking forward to catching up. And I do enjoy these Skype calls or Zoom calls. Take care. Stay safe.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. You as well.
All right. I'm very excited about this next caller, our next speaker, set of speakers, Conor DeMone and Keith Dicker of IceCap Investment Managements. Keith also manages a hedge fund. His advice is sought after all across the globe, and he's based right here in Halifax. Now, I personally use IceCap for my own retirement funds and refer my high net worth clients to Keith and Conor. We have a special offer for the professional engineers on this call. We'll discuss that later. One of the things I've noticed in the industry, as I talked about at the beginning, a lot of advisors want to push product. They push either insurance, term insurance, and then offer a mutual fund. Well, mutual funds can be very expensive. So there's the index funds and ETF funds as well. The problem with those, though, is they are passive. Actively managed mutual funds are often reactive and slow to react. And this is what I love about Keith and IceCap. They are proactive. They can make changes immediately, and they often make changes before the chaos occurs. And I've been listening to Keith for over a year now, and he has been really setting up play by play. This is the first domino. The next domino is going to happen. This can save you big time and help you take advantage of what's around the corner. Conor, are you there?
I'm here. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can. Geez, look at those guns. Holy,
I'll
put those away. Okay.
Oh man, I think they were banned here not too long ago.
Conor, would you do me the honor of introducing Keith?
Yeah, absolutely. So two things. I'm super excited that fly fishing season has opened in Nova Scotia. And I'm also not so excited that I got my first gray hair yesterday.
You aged.
So thanks for introducing us there, Steve. Like you said, IceCap's a global macro firm. We literally have investors all over the world. We're based here in Halifax. And when we do invest clients' money, we're taking on a global perspective. And with recent market volatility, I think it's really important for investors to not only appreciate the global macro world we're living in, but to also recognize that, hey, we are all connected in this. What's happening in Europe, what's happening in China, this is affecting what's taking place here in North America. I don't know. Does everybody have Netflix on this call? Probably. We're all Netflix subscribers.
I'm getting rid of it, actually.
Okay. Well, before you do, take a look at the new Chicago Bulls documentary. It highlights the Bulls during the 90s when they won that era of championships. I just finished the Scottie Pippen episode. And Pippen really talks about how defense wins championships. And I'm 5'4". I'm not a basketball star. I'm not a basketball fan before this documentary. But Pippen couldn't have done it on his own. He was only as good as his network. And Michael Jordan's the same way. So Keith is going to highlight what defensive strategies we took prior to the crisis, and how our network, so you really are only good as your network, has benefited us during this crisis as well. Without further ado, Keith Dicker.
Okay, thanks for the kind words, Conor. Everyone hear me? Thumbs up? Okay, cool.
Yeah, very good.
So let's just talk a little bit about markets. And I know there's a lot of chaos and confusion out there these days, and we're preoccupied with other things that are happening. For us as money managers, this is it's an extraordinary time, and we're actually having a very good time with it. So the reason we're having a good time is we've been pretty correct in our expectation of what was going to happen in the world, as well as what we could do to position for it. So very quickly, we avoided all the bad stuff that happened with markets in March. Specifically, we weren't in high yield bonds, credit markets, preferred shares, things like that. And but we also had a pretty good exposure to volatility markets and look at US dollars as well. So we came out pretty well. And then for the fund that we manage, if you think about all the bad things that happened in the world, we benefit from that. So it's been pretty good. So I just want to share with you our perspective, and maybe that'll help you understand what's going to happen next. If it's okay, Steve, I'll share with my screen here what I have up. If that's
Yes,
okay.
I'm gonna do my best to share that screen with you. All right.
Let's see.
You should have access to it now.
Okay, so we're all good here. With investment markets, it's incredibly important to understand that the entire world, after World War II, they got together in New Hampshire and they said, listen, we're going to be able to control the economy by changing interest rates up and down, as well as having government spend more money and change the tax rates. Every time there's been a crisis in the financial world, that has always been the response. So I'm just showing you here, like we go back to the mid 80s when with the Plaza Accord, when the dollar was devalued. Every time there's an event like that, we get this guaranteed response from central banks. We always know what it's going to be. It's irrelevant whether you agree or disagree with it. It happens. And that causes foreign capital to move around the world. So the price of everything in the world is dependent upon supply versus demand. And as soon as foreign capital leaves one market, it enters another market. So that increases the demand for one and changes the demand for another market. As you go through this little bit of a history lesson here, I won't go into a lot of detail, but every time there was a crisis, the response to it, it always just treated the symptoms, and the symptoms has always been a bad debt problem. What happened with the response from monetary policy as well as governments is that it just simply sowed the seeds then for the next crisis to occur. So the response to Japan created the Asian crisis, which created the tech crisis, which then created the housing crisis. For the last 10 years before the COVID crisis hit, with IceCap and our network, we've always looked around and said, hey, if the world has gone to zero rates, it's gone to negative rates. The only reason most governments are still running and a lot of companies can borrow is because rates are so low. That's the only reason. When we look at financial markets, we could see that they were stretched. So volatility markets were priced to perfection. Bond markets are priced to perfection. Currencies are held up where they shouldn't be. So for us, we've always known that, hey, something is going to happen. That's going to be a trigger event. And once it does, we'll get this, this Adam Smith invisible hand concept is going to come back into play, because market risk loves to express itself. It just needs the opportunity to do it. So we weren't obviously able to predict the crisis would be triggered by a virus coming out of China, but we were easily able to predict that, hey, something is on the verge of happening. So that's sort of the past. What happens next? You need to think of the financial world this way. What happened in March was, you're looking at this small bubble down here, this bond market. Because this first crisis event happened in this part of the financial world, we now know that there's a fairly higher probability that this crisis will happen next. This is in the emerging market world. Once this begins, we now know that the invisible hand of money, risk in the marketplace, will then shift over into what we call the majors. That's what we call in the currency world. That's what Canadian dollars and so forth. And then once that occurs, it goes to Japanese yen and Japanese markets with the US dollar at the end. So using this as a blueprint, don't just simply look at your, your retirement funds or your TFSAs and pension plans and just think that, hey, I always buy stocks, they'll go up, markets recover. We're at this moment in time now, Steve, and it's incredibly, it's laughable, it's interesting, it's frightening in that every central bank around the world has now gone to zero rates and negative rates. And that's a concept we haven't had before, but because that has happened, it's going to cause money again to start moving around the world, running away from trouble. And it's pretty likely, because this series of events have started, that it's going to cascade going from the left to the right. And ultimately for portfolios, it's going to be a pretty good environment if you were able to anticipate where to allocate your investment portfolio.
Awesome.
So when we look around the world, have another 2 minutes, Steve, is that okay?
Yeah, we're running a little behind schedule. 2 minutes should be fine.
Okay, 2 minutes. So these days we're hearing how here in Canada, there's a lot of stimulus being spread out. Everyone's getting a few dollars here and there. It's the same thing with the Americans and the Europeans. Total stimulus around the world now, it's about 8 trillion. Total economic losses, the number is as low as 28, 29 trillion. I've seen some numbers up to 40 trillion. The only way to offset these losses is to either have the economy grow fast enough to catch up to it, or you get a lot of these losses, that they recover. What we show people, a common factor or concept you look at in the economic world is what is the multiplier of money. So for 8 trillion to offset 30 trillion in losses, we're going to need a multiplier looking at 3-4 times to really get up to exceed that. I just want to show you, this is a multiplier chart for the world's economy. We've never exceeded that point before in the history of time. As a matter of fact, the multiplier has been declining now for 20 years. So what that tells you is that anyone expecting this V-shaped recovery, it's unlikely it's going to happen. And it's going to take a while to really get back to where we want to be. And so no, I know it's a quick call, but the quick solution for this environment is that it's highly likely the US dollar has the probability to absolutely surge in this environment. And that's what you need to consider. That's going to override all of the financial markets. Is that okay, Steve? Do you want some more thoughts, or you're good?
Well, I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions, and we'll save those for the end. Like the fact that the bond market that used to be considered the safe market is now probably where most of the risk is at. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, so a lot of that risk now is being covered by central banks, but the follow through from this is that the Canadian central banks, as well as the Fed and then the Brits and so forth, they are not covering losses that will happen in emerging markets. So if you look at Turkey, for example, you probably have about 300 billion in losses that will come out of Turkey that will directly hit European banks. So then you start seeing the contagion spread from one market to the next and so forth. It's an incredibly fragile system we have. And just because equities have recovered a bit now from the March low, it's not something to remain complacent about, because we got some spectacular moves coming up here. As a firm, we're pretty excited about it from a financial perspective.
I am as well. And there are some questions coming up on how to play the US dollar, gold, and all that stuff. We'll save that. I'll spend the next 5 minutes quickly bringing this all together. So if you can give that screen back to me.
Are you okay there now?
I should be all right.
I don't like to give up control, so.
All right. So you can see my screen now?
Yes, I can on my end. Yeah.
All right. Just look at the controls. Zoom. find this works half the time. All right, so amazing so far. I'm going to really fly through this. This is going to give you 5 steps that you need to take right now to take advantage of what we talked about in the past hour. And you heard Alain, Emo, talk about really getting clear on your why. You have to get crystal clear on this, and this is the perfect time to do this if you haven't done this already. But why do you do what you do? All right, why are you an engineer? I'm just going to see if I can put myself up here. My video should be showing. Keith, you're very handsome, but I know you want to see others. And I'm going to share this poll with you guys. Yeah, I have to get very clear on your why. And I want control back. I shouldn't have gave you up control there, Keith. I'm losing all my... Anyways, get crystal clear on your why. Why are you engineers in the first place? Why do we want to get even better? What are your values? What are your vision? What are your goals in life? Who are you and who do you want to become? And when you get crystal clear on this, this will help you focus on what's important and cut out what's not. Do you have a 1-sentence mission statement? Your why alone will allow you to be more productive, more focused. It will limit those distractions, eliminate the noise, so you can spend more quality time on what's truly important: your career, your family, relationships, and your health. And listen, you can really achieve anything when you stop trying to do everything. One question I love asking is, well, I just asked it in the poll, what's the one thing you can do such by doing it, everything else will become easier and unnecessary? Another eye-opener question is, if you knew you only had 1 hour left on this planet, maybe you're jumping on a spaceship that Elon Musk built, but if you only knew you had 1 hour left on the planet, who are you spending with? What are you doing? What are you talking about? And what advice would you pass on? Take the time to write those down. It's very powerful questions. Step number 2. If it allows me to change. Is the proper perspective can help you remain calm. Money is very emotional. Success, I would even say success is emotional. And I love this quote from Warren Buffett that says, the market is the most efficient mechanism anywhere in the world for transferring wealth from impatient people to patient people. We generally tend to do the opposite of what we're supposed to do. We tend to buy high and we tend to sell low. And I'm sure there's people on this call, I've been guilty in this in the past. Once bitten, twice shy. You can learn from other people. As I mentioned, money is stressful. You can only control what you can control, and you have to let go of what you cannot. We have an unconscious bias towards the way we feel about money and success. And right now, we are a very emotional state. When we do our self-investing, and a lot of my clients still do their self-investing. I do their retirement funds, the safe stuff, let them grow. I highly recommend the professionals, Keith and myself, to help this out. But a lot of people think that they're just going to put money in the market and Yahoo, it's a great time, but this is actually how it works. You can see some sick faces there, some happy faces, but a loss affects you emotionally 10 times more than a gain does, meaning you feel that much worse when you lose and not the amount of joy when you win. And as I mentioned, when do you think most people buy? And when do they sell? I love the quote from Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. And when you realize that money is emotional, you can now take this time to gain a proper understanding of how money works and how it can work for you. Now, money's not taught in schools, tax is not taught in schools, business is not taught in schools. And unfortunately, most of us get our advice from the banks. Now, where do you think the banks make most of their profit from? My comment section just left. I'm going to guess a lot of people know the answer already, and it's debt. All right. So we're getting advice from an institution that makes most of our money from credit cards and debt. I want you to understand that the biggest asset out there, it's not your house. Any ideas what your biggest asset is? Well, the biggest asset out there is you. Every time you look at the mirror, you have to realize you are the major key to your own success. You are the driver of your financial vehicle. When you know this, efficiency becomes super important, and now's the time to learn how money truly works so you become its master. This treated me well in 2009, and now it is time for you to diversify or at least get started so it can treat you well and where you can take advantage of this pandemic and maybe the next financial crisis. And a truly diversified portfolio, when you're watching TV, they talk about stocks. It's not having a couple of stocks or a couple of mutual funds. A truly diversified portfolio is having focus on either your business or your source of employment. There's other ways to make money or wealth creation is in real estate. There's the investing and saving, and that's what gets most of the news, the press, because it is so emotional and you can do it in 10-second bits. There's also live-in benefits. And then I help those that qualify to help them become their own bank. Now, out of all these, which one do you think is the most profitable? Where do you think you're going to make the most money in this diversified portfolio? See if I can get these comments back here. Goodness gracious. All right. Well, listen, I'm going to answer the question for you. It is your source of employment, your business. It's you. That is where you're going to make the most money. You're going to spend way more money than you're going to invest. But out of all these, the only one that isn't dependent on the economy is the whole life or how to become your own bank. And this can help you grow all these to take advantage of the investing, the real estate, the income opportunities down the road. And I'd love to spend more time on that. I could spend a whole webinar, and probably we will one of these days. Step 4, it's time to focus on what is important and cut out what is not. And listen, I know this is easier said than done. The human brain is not designed to keep us happy and fulfilled. It's designed to help us survive. The elephant brain, the big portion of the brain that runs about 95% of what we do, is always looking for what's wrong or whatever can hurt us so it can either fight it or fly from it, run from it. An undirected mind operates in survival mode, just as Alain mentioned. The biggest threat to your financial well-being is your own brain. There's 2 parts of your brain fighting against you, the monkey brain and the elephant brain. How do you redirect all these 3 brains to help the Yoda brain, the brain that wants you to do great, to overpower that dark side, to reduce the influence of the monkey and control the elephant? The quick answer to that is to make our good habits easier to do and our not so good habits a little more difficult to accomplish. And having your spending and your investing on autopilot will serve you well. We talked about investing first. The philosophy of the wealthy is to invest first, and Warren Buffett recommends at least 30% and live off what you have left over, while the philosophy of the middle class is to spend first and invest what is left over And generally, when you follow that philosophy, how much money do you have left over? And the answer we all know is generally 0. Step 5, get professional help. You can design your own future. You can become your own bank. You can retire on your own terms. But if you want to get there faster and easier with less effort, you can get help from professionals. And generally after this presentation, there are 2 paths you can take moving forward. We are all people of actions. The path number 1 that you can take is to try to navigate through this pandemic, through this crisis on your own, alone. Or there's the second path. Let me and the other experts take you step by step through the entire process. You can achieve anything when you stop trying to do everything. Statistics, my tongue is tied, shows that a good advisor will not only increase your net worth, but a great advisor is obsessed with losing your money, avoiding losses. Why is this? Because we understand a simple but profound fact that money is emotion. And when you start the process of being able to retire on your own terms, it all starts on getting clear on your vision, your why, your values, and your goals. This will lead to better educated decisions. Those educated decisions then lead to results that leads to the confidence where now you can focus on what's truly important, your career, your family, and your relationships. This is an example of what a plan can do. The numbers obviously I see are too low or too not in there, but obviously this is a client. We got to keep things confidential, doing very well. And just with a couple of tweaks, we reduce their taxes and increase their net worth. Success is just a series of small steps taken on the right staircase. And now is the time to take that step. Congratulations once again. I do truly appreciate our time together. I wish everyone on this call nothing but the best. Feel free, if you want more information, reach out. You can either text me on my cell, which is 902-240-6508. That's 240-6508. And just type a simple text of maybe success, and I'll get back to you. Or go to my website, The Financial Engineer. We can all reach financial independence. But in our hearts, we know it's not the money that makes us rich, but it's the loving warmth of our relationships, of our family and our friends, and it's finding meaningful work, probably more than ever. I hope this has been a wake-up call, the pandemic, and maybe even this presentation. It really is the capacity to learn, grow, share, and serve. Having money allows you to amplify the person you are and who you want to be so you can truly focus on what's important. Before we get to the question and answer, I hope you see the power of focusing on what's important, doubling down on your strengths, and working with professionals. Could you type a yes or give thumbs up if you agree? Or a no if you disagree. Here's some valuable links. We will be passing this on to Engineers Nova Scotia, so you will get a copy with these links and of the presentation attached. And these are changing daily. This is a lot of work to keep up with, but there are government programs out there. We are lucky to live in Canada where no one really needs to starve, and they are helping with us. But it is uncertain times out there. I hope this added some certainty and some clarity on what to do. I do love this quote from our Premier, and I look forward to working with you. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. Let's get to the question and answer period. All right, let's see if I can get this working. All right, Keith, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. So we mentioned about the beauty. Andrew's got a great question here. active investment managing versus passive. Warren Buffett obviously won the famous versus active investment debate 3 years ago. What are your thoughts, your takeaways on that?
There are times for passive as well as active. At significant turning points, you want to be active, you need to be active. Active will benefit you if you're able to avoid losses. So if you get a 50% loss to anything, you need a 100% return to get back to where you started. It's simply the way it works. So, with us, we use passive strategies within the portfolio, but we are active in making allocations when we need to. I hope that helps, Andrea.
And my little two cents on that as well is when it comes to mutual funds, there's so much compliance, rules, and regulations that they can't be truly active. They're often very reactive. And as we've seen here, the whole goal of a mutual fund is to beat the index where 96% of them don't, meaning 4% do, but 96% don't, and they charge a fee that is associated with that. But because of all the rules and regulations, they don't react as fast enough. And what's the big difference between IceCap and your mutual fund dealer?
One of the main differences is that mutual funds, they're stuck in the past. The Canadian industry is not looking forward to what can you do to make the portfolio better, stronger, sounder. So as an example, the majority of the industry has completely missed the fact that rates have gone from 20% to 0%, which means there's no upside to bond portfolios. Yet, because the way mutual funds are structured, everyone is stuck in a bond portfolio of some sort. So with IceCap, we look outside that. We're not sticking to a strict benchmark. A good example, we've had an allocation to just a fantastic interest rate volatility ETF that we added last summer. Year to date, that fund is up about 15% in Canadian dollar terms. So about 6% with the underlying strategy, and then another 8 or 9% on the FX side. So with IceCap as well as other managers, just make sure you ask them, how do they see the world? What are you doing differently? Because it's a different world today than it was 10 years ago and 30 and 40 years ago. Times have changed, your strategies change as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And one of the questions that was emailed to me earlier, and I think I've got a good answer on this, but I'll let you answer this as well. With all the spending, so generally governments are supposed to raise interest rates. Well, it's not necessarily the governments, but we're supposed to raise interest rates and cut spending when times are good. So when times are bad, there's going to be lots of extra money to help out. Well, we haven't done this. We've just gone through the longest bull market ever, and interest rates were already low, massive government spending. We're seeing debts at all-time highs. And now the tax revenues are pretty much non-existent, with oil being, I've never thought we'd see $0 oil. Why again do you see the big rally for the US dollar, and what is your thoughts on precious metals such as gold and silver?
Yeah, sure.
And how do you invest? How do you take up the opportunity? What are some of the strategies involved?
Yeah, it's I love the question, and so in 10 seconds. So very quickly, guys, the deal with the US dollar is that about 70% of US dollars are used by the US economy inside the US, and then the rest is used outside of the US. So for example, emerging market countries, they had to borrow in US dollars. International companies, all their trade, like if you're an Italian company, you're selling marble to an Indian company, the trade happens in US dollars. So when you look at the demand for dollars around the world, it's significantly greater than the supply. And with the supply of dollars, there are really two kinds, and people are not aware of that. You have the supply of US dollars within the US, and then you have US dollars that are outside the US. The dollars inside the US, that supply is determined by the US Federal Reserve, and they can change that whenever they want. They're increasing it right now. The supply of US dollars outside the US, there's no one there to create more dollars. It's done by bank credit, it's a levered entity. And right now, the supply of dollars in the world is contracting. So when global trade declines, there's less dollars in the world for the emerging market countries to use. So that's what's happening now. But yet, because so many countries and entities have borrowed in dollars, they need US dollars to pay those debts. They need US dollars to settle trade that's outstanding and so forth. So the US dollar, it's squeezing higher, it's getting pushed higher. And it will have its day in the sun, so to speak, but it'll be the last man standing. With gold, we're pretty agnostic towards it right now. We had a lot of gold back in 11 and 12, about 25% of our portfolios, and then when it broke, we got out. But right now, because we're expecting the US dollar to potentially surge here, when that event happens, it's likely gold is going to come off pretty hard. And if it does, then that will tell us, okay, now we'll start looking at it more closely. If the dollar surges and gold stays flat, like it holds its own, then that's incredibly powerful. That tells us, okay, it's also now time to look at gold. So again, for everyone, like it's another way to add natural diversification to your portfolio. And again, there are a number of different ways to do this.
Awesome. And that's a discussion I guess people would have either through me or through you. There is a good question on here about why do we think it's so long? This is from John. Why do we think it's so long for the economy to recover? Isn't it dependent on how fast we can get people back to work? How and why? Well, that's but I'll get you. I think I know the answer to that one there is Keith, but I'll let you take care of that as well. Why do you think it will take so long for the economy to recover? Isn't it dependent on how fast we get people back to work?
It is highly dependent on getting people back to work, absolutely. However, we also have permanent asset destruction that's taken place. So for example, there are a lot of businesses that they won't be able to get back on their feet again. Those businesses, they owe money on their leases. That's somebody else's asset. The bank is behind it. Banks will be taking losses on their balance sheet. It just creates this significant drag to really create this environment where private investors are ready to walk in and say, you know what, I'm going to invest $200 million in a new plant in Nova Scotia to build this. When you have so much interference taking place by central banks and governments, that the private sector is not the least bit comfortable in putting their capital back to work when you don't know what's going to happen with policies. So as an example, because every province now in the country and every city across the country, they're going to be running huge deficits. I'm pretty confident everywhere on this call, you are going to have a higher property tax next year. It's coming straight down the pipe. You can see it coming a mile away. And whether that's 20% more, 50% more, it's going to be there. So it's just say you have a $10,000 property tax bill every year. Now it's you have to pay, say, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 more. That's less money you have available to spend. And that money is going to your province or to your city simply to help fund some of this extra additional deficit that they're building up. So it's just going to take a long time to get there. It's extremely messy. The private sector will not be given the opportunity to decide which companies should be successful and which ones shouldn't. You have this crowded out effect by the government as well as central banks. And it's going to just take a longer time. I see the second part of the question from John is, how the stimulus packages get paid for. tax increases are coming. I mean, that's what's going to happen. However, the good news is I think we're going to hit a significant change in the system within the next, let's say 3 to 18 months, something like that. It will happen very quickly. And once it does happen, we'll see a lot of big changes coming through on the other side. So, as Steve has mentioned here today, make sure you're taken care of. Don't go reaching for risk right now, because we'll get through the other side of this. But you're going to see some pretty big changes coming up, everyone.
I agree. And yeah, taxes are going to increase across the board. And we talked about your biggest asset earlier, and that's you. Your biggest expense in life, guess what it is? It's taxes. And unfortunately, they are going to go up. That's why, you got to max out your TFSA, and why I'm such a big fan of becoming your own bank too. Because you're not only taxed on your income and what you buy, but you're also taxed on your investments quite heavily. And that is likely to increase. We got a question. I have $10,000 to spare. How should I invest it while the real investment is min 10K and goes through the banks? Generally, I think with this, if we had a big, say if you had 10K or 100K and you wanted to invest it, I generally do not recommend throwing anything at the market right now. Well, not all at once. You drip it, you pack it, you slowly, and Keith is great at this. He's done it with my money. But what's your advice? If someone had extra money, Keith, what should they do with it right now?
So this is where we have to use our regulator disclaimer. So guys, we're regulated by Canadian authorities as well as down the US. So it's not as simple as saying one person should do this or that. Everyone has a different objective. The simplest thing that everyone should look at right now is getting US dollars into your possession, whether it's just simply in a bank account or you're holding it in a different form. There are different ways to do it. It's not going to be a long-term investment, but again, the deck is stacked against all other currencies doing well relative to the dollar. So it could help you out quite well. That's a simple thing to look at.
Yes, and the fact that business owners are really taking this on the chin more so than anyone. If you're employed and it seems pretty stable, that's great. Business owners are taking this on the chin. I've already talked to several business owners that had to shut their doors permanently. Sarah asked some of the examples of changes for the next 3 to 18 months. One of the reasons why the economy is not going to come back is a lot of businesses are closing doors, and they're going to have to let go of their employees. And it's my belief that the small business is the backbone of the Canadian economy, and they're not going to get back to work right away. There's going to be we talked about the dance as well. There's going to be opening or loosening of rules, followed by the tightening of rules. I know a lot of people want to go back to restaurants, but there's a lot of people that will never go back to a restaurant when this is all said and done. There's a lot of models, a lot of predictions out there. I'd love to, if I could tell you what the future brings, we'd all be doing very well right now. But Keith, or is there anybody else on the call that would like to answer that question? What are some examples of changes in the next 3 to 18 months that you see happening in our beloved province?
I've been talking a lot, so I think I'll let, if anyone else wants to comment, Alain or anyone. No. Again, like we're money managers, so we're pretty objective about stuff. We not a lot of subjectivity. You are going to see increased stress in the financial system. So the one piece of advice to everyone, just sort of think about it real quick here. I think everyone is Canadian on the call. Is that right, Steve?
Almost all Nova Scotians, yeah, all professional
Oh, okay,
engineers.
okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Start looking at the world as if you're not living in Nova Scotia, you're not living in Canada, you're outside the world. So for example, like your homework this afternoon, take a look at the top European banks, and you will see that their bank stocks are back to levels that were last trading in the 90s, some of them back in the 80s. And then you say, okay, why is that happening? Why are European, that'd be the equivalent to having RBC bank stock, you know, down to $20, for example. You know, it's just an extraordinary financial moment in time that we have. And then you say, okay, if the European banking system is that weak, there's a reason for what steps have taken to make it better. And you'll see it's the same thing that they've done over and over again. When the European banking system develops more stress, it will absolutely be contagious to the Canadian banking system, to the US banking system. So, you know, in terms of changes that can happen over the next 3 months, people with mortgages, you're likely going to see mortgage rates go up. You're going to see any bit of interest that's being offered on any type of a GIC or term deposit is going to go down. And probably the one that will blow you away the most, you're likely going to see the Bank of Canada go to negative interest rates. So in my world, these are pretty big events, and none of them are positive for the Canadian dollar.
Yeah, there's not a lot. Listen, I'd love to leave this on a positive note, and I guess the big thing I will leave this on is there are opportunities out there. I hope you got a lot of value out of listening to this today. It is the time where we can start thinking big. Even in our living room or our kitchen or our home office, we do have access to the world right in the palm of our hand a lot of the times. And we have access to the experts and the professionals out there that you don't have to do everything on your own. There is help out there mentally, physically, and financially. Feel free to reach out, any guys. If there's any questions, you can reach out to any one of these panelists. The contact information's there, and I'm happy to answer any other questions. The easiest way to reach me is thefinancialengineer.ca, and I will pass this presentation is recorded and will be forwarded to Engineers Nova Scotia. Take care, everyone. Be safe. Be part of the solution. Thanks for the nice comments. You're very welcome. Take care there, Jeff. Peter, all the best. Alex, thanks for the kind words, Nadia. I'm glad you got value. We are here to help. All right, enjoy the sunshine out there, guys and girls. I'm looking forward to meeting engineers again in person. Beth and Engineers Nova Scotia and Christy do a great job, and they're keeping us all together during these times virtually. All right, be the change. I know my biggest lesson I've learned is associating with powerful people. And when I say powerful, I mean those that are already successful, the type of people I want to be, the role models. When you do hang around with a certain crowd, you become much like them. The power association is one of the most important things you can do. So if you'd like that professional help to get to that next level, reach out. We're here to help. Thank you very much, DeMone. Thanks, Keith. Thanks, Alain. Great job, everyone.